May I say, you're not going to want to miss a nanosecond of this program. It's Friday. A lot of people start tapping the brakes. I don't tap the brakes. My foot is down fully to the ground on the gas pedal. I get a lot of questions, a lot of inquiries by good people, kind people, smart people, red-blooded Americans about how we've gotten to the point where people like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes have followings of any kind, given the fact that they're so vile and hateful to Jews and Christians, to red-blooded Americans, that they promote Hitler and Stalin, or promote guests that promote Hitler and Stalin, why they're so disrespectful and vile against the greatest generation that won World War II, why they side with Hamas and the Islamists against Israel, why they side with an ideology that attacked us on a 9/11, why they're now endorsing Mandami, a Marxist Islamist. People ask me why. And I believe the problem is that not enough of our fellow citizens are actually educated about these two people and others, but two at a time. And so what I'm about to do is a public service. From sea to shining sea, all over the country, hell, all over the world, on every one of my platforms. Because bullies only get away with what they do when the people don't know what they're doing. Let's start this way. What kind of a man, father, husband, attacks another man's family, uses their platform to attack another man's family? In my case, my stepson, who is a patriot to this country, who has been asked twice by President Donald Trump to serve two separate ambassadors in the state of Israel, viciously attacked for an hour by Tucker Carlson, using a guest, a left-wing hostile guest from the State Department who apparently was fired, but not by my stepson, as a foil to try and smear my stepson. What kind of man is that? Tough guy or a coward? I ask all you fathers out there. I ask all you men out there. I ask your mothers out there. Is that fair play? Just asking questions. I've never, ever had a negative word to say about any of his sons, including Buckley Carlson, who works for the vice president. Never. And I never will. You lack morality. You lack character. You're mentally unhinged when you use your platform to viciously and connivingly and cowardly go after somebody's son who can't defend himself overseas while he's in safe rooms while the enemy of our country's shooting ballistic missiles into Israel. Even if I had a disagreement with the vice president, and God knows I have a lot of disagreements with Tucker Carlson, it would never occur to me to drag his son or children into this. No man does that. Nobody except him. because he's a punk without standards. Thinks he can talk his way out of everything. He's the Jerry Springer of the podcasters, except he's Jerry Springer in a brown shirt. That's what he is. He's a joke. And he's platformed. He's given access to thousands and thousands of students at Turning Point USA. Why? I'm going to get into this. But before I get to him, I want to deal with Nick Fuentes. This prepubescent Adolf Jr., and he's probably proud of all that. I want you to listen to a montage, America. We're going to educate everybody about this. Praising Hitler on the Milk Bar TV on X. And throughout this, you're going to see that we have to blurp and bleep much of what he sends about black people. He uses the N-word endlessly, he uses the F-word endlessly. And this is the person I want you to keep in the front of your mind. Of all the guests that Tucker Carlson could have brought on his program, this is the one that he said he's most curious about, that he wants to present to all of his viewers and listeners. Because he has questions, you know. Cut one, go.
Look, I'm not obsessed with Hitler. I really don't even know that much about him.
Buddy, it's Führer Friday. It is Hitler Friday. Shut up. It is Heil Hitler Friday. Heil Hitler. All my Nazis. Heil.
Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really cool. So, you know, time to grow up. We're not children anymore. Am I right? Am I right? Let's go. He was also really cool. And any boy knows that. Anybody that watches these videos where he's rolling down the street and stuff, it's like, this guy's awesome. This guy's cool.
Just American general?
Hitler. Oh, American.
$10. Up pointing finger.
If we're going to say Hitler bad, then I'm going to say Churchill bad, and I'm going to say Roosevelt bad, and I'm going to say they're all bad. But if we look at him as a product of his time in that moment, you know, we have to judge him with those things in mind.
Hitler was an incredibly ambitious, aggressive risk taker. Given your qualifications, would you thereby say that Hitler is a good leader?
It's indisputable he is. Indisputably. You could even say he's evil. He made Germany great again.
Second semester, you know, I got home in the spring and I was like, Mom, Dad, Hitler was awesome. Hitler was right. And the Holocaust didn't happen. And my parents were like, we cannot believe what you are saying. We did not raise you like this. I'm like, I can't believe you're not being chill about this. It's 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies and you have 15 ovens, probably in 4 different kitchens, right? Doing 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years. How long would it take you to make $6 million? I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be 5 years, right? The math doesn't seem to add up there. The math doesn't quite seem to add up there. I don't think you'd result in 6 million, maybe 200 to 300,000 cookies. And I think the Red Cookie Association said something like that, probably 200 to 300,000 cookies baked, probably. And in addition, you know, in this hypothetical, I imagine that if you took aerial photographs over the kitchens, you would need to see certain smokestacks to release the smoke from baking the cookies. And the smokestacks would project certain shadows, but I guess they're not visible in the aerial photographs taken over the kitchens. Moreover, if you look at the soil texture, it's really not deep enough for mass cookie storage underground. And so there's a lot of things, you know, in the cookie kitchen, they say that the ovens are wooden and they have windows on them and they're not totally secure. And the ovens that they use, they actually did sort of an ad hoc use of that particular kind of oven, even though they made a perfectly good design for ovens for a different purpose, for delousing. I mean, you know, for something else. So none of it really adds up. I don't know. It just kind of doesn't really make sense, this crazy cookie analogy. So 6 million cookies,
But it's like 6 million degrees. It's like an oven in here. It's like 6 million degrees. I'm feeling like a chocolate chip cookie. Feels like an oven in here. Feels like an oven disguised as a studio, but is actually a death chamber. I hope I'll be okay. I hope it's not some sort of genocidal torture device. That would be terrible. Anyway, but it seems unlikely. That seems like that would not make a lot of sense. But anyway.
Mm-hmm. You want to debate that guy? Should I bring him on my program? Should I give him airtime? Really? What are we going to debate? Is that what you folks want to hear? 27-year-old psychopath? Nazi? Racist? Is that entertaining? You know, before our friend Charlie Kirk was assassinated, Nick Fuentes had been harassing him, had been abusing him, cursing him for years. Charlie didn't want his gropers, the Fuentes brown shirts, anywhere near Turning Point USA. Nowhere. And they would sneak in anyway, as they've been sneaking in, asking questions of people who have substituted for him. Let's take a listen to this. Cut 2, go.
Whether he chooses to confront me or not, whether he has dignity and honor or not, it's just a matter of time. My ideas are already there. I've already impregnated your organization. I took Turning Point USA and I it. I took your organization, I took your baby, Turning Point USA, and I it. And I've been in it. And that's why it's filled with groypers. That's why your whole crew, that's why the people around you, that's why your chapter presidents, that's why your attendees, they're all groypers. So whether you choose to confront me or not over the honor of your Turning Point USA, it's immaterial to me. I'd like it. I just get a sick satisfaction out of it because I like to win. But we're already there. And this whole ideology, Zionism plus free market, it's dead either way. You know it. I know it. Pretty much the whole world knows it's over. In the last 7 years, who's moved closer to who? Could anybody accuse me of stealing Charlie Kirk's ideas? No. Has Charlie Kirk every step of the way moved in degree closer to me? Tried to ape my bit, my ideas, my style? Oh, no question. No question.
Yeah,
we
right.
already own you. We own you. We own Turning Point USA. We own this movement. Whether you decide to have dignity about it and face me or not, that's up to you. That's something you'll have to tell your children. When Nick Fuentes became the future, when the Groypers took over the movement, did you take a valorant last stand? Were you courageous? Were you bold? Did you go down swinging or did you go down like did you run and hide? That's the only thing when you're explaining that to your family, Mr. Family Man. When you're explaining to your wife, when she's saying, why won't you just debate Nick Fuentes? And you got to explain to her. When your kids grow up, why didn't you just confront Nick Fuentes? You got to explain to them why you were afraid, why you were a coward. That's the only difference. Immaterial to me. We already won.
Because Charlie Kirk was a class act. He wanted nothing to do with you, you low-life turd on the bottom of a shoe. Oh, I've got more. You've got to listen to this. Because in the end, Tucker Carlson promoted this guy and promoted what he said. So here is Nick Fuentes, if that is his name, attacking again and relentlessly for years Charlie Kirk, who says, I'm not platforming you, I'm not debating you, I want nothing to do with you. Cut 3, go.
I think a lot of people are starting to find out Charlie Kirk is not the patriot that he says he is. And so I look at what happened last night and I think to myself, this is totally a doable operation. You know, Charlie Kirk in the grand scheme of things is just some idiot. The dog is terrified. I had to go upstairs and reassure him because I'm screaming at my screen, calling Charlie Kirk a and everything. The contrast could not be more clear. Charlie Kirk is a totally unexceptional human being. A moral struggle that's happening on the higher dimension, right? Which is Christ versus the devil. Who does Charlie Kirk serve? You know, is he really a Christian? Is he really Christ-like when he supports foreign wars and Israel and all this? Look at the people he's taking money from. You know, so the guy's a fake Christian. The guy's not a patriot. He hates our country. He's un-American. Let's focus all our firepower on Charlie Kirk. Why are we doing this? It's because Charlie Kirk is a fake patriot, a fake Christian, and he hates his people. He's anti-white. This is our angle. We talk about Charlie Kirk's dual allegiance to Israel. The almighty Oz, you know, the massive head with the tiny face behind the curtain, Charlie Kirk, lording over the conservative movement. Remember, the goal is to expose the globalism, the fake conservatism of Charlie Kirk. People see that Charlie Kirk is not a real conservative. He is not a real nationalist. He is not a real Christian. And that is simply the truth. We humiliated Charlie Kirk last night. We took Gotham's White Knight. We brought him down to our level. We didn't exactly flip him, but we definitely humiliated him. We took one of their best and we made him a laughingstock. Charlie Kirk is not an honest broker, not a conservative. He exists, and Turning Point USA exists to control the conversation. Charlie Kirk was totally unhinged, and I think the guy has Asperger's, so he might have trouble with that. It has to play into this narrative, has to play into the framing that Charlie Kirk and Turning Point are not right-wing. They're not conservative. You know, Charlie Kirk gets asked a tough question, and he reverts back to Israel, God bless Israel, Israel's the best, you know. He malfunctions. He can't do it because I think he has Asperger's. I believe that. We acknowledge that Charlie Kirk is not conservative. He's destroying the country, and we can all agree that we have to put a stop to that, right? Charlie Kirk is and a coward, so we've got him checked on both fronts. It is worth mentioning the Dan Crenshaw...
That's enough. He does this for years. And Charlie's a class act. Charlie's a class act. You've heard this, so I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, why would Tucker Carlson platform Nick Fuentes? Tucker Carlson knows all about Fuentes, knows what he said about Charlie and his family, knows all about this. Why would he do that? Because he's a lowlife with no principles and no morals. He'll do anything for a buck. Anything. Sell out his country, sell out a friend, stab him in the back, bring Charlie's worst enemy on his program to promote him with a softball interview like they were whatever. What did Charlie Kirk have to say about this? Cut 4, go.
Let's go to Nathaniel. Nathaniel, thank you so much for being a member. What's on your mind?
Hi, Charlie. As a TPUSA chapter founder and president, I've seen firsthand how the tide is turning among young conservatives. I say, if you truly believe in open debate in the marketplace of ideas, will you ever be willing to debate Nick Fuentes?
So stop it. This is what I get now. Will you debate him? Will you debate Tucker Carlson? I don't debate the Klan. I don't debate Nazis. I don't debate lowlives, poison, cancer in the form of these truly evil people. Because then it rubs off on you forever. You can't get rid of it. Their video, his audio. Charlie could have kicked Fuentes' ass. I could kick Tucker Carlson's ass. He's not that smart. And he says the same thing over and over again. But Charlie had no interest in elevating this guy. I have no interest in elevating any of these guys. I'm doing this not because I want to, but because it's a public service, so you know exactly what we're dealing with here. So this is a planted caller, one of Fuentes' guys. I've been warning the substitutes who are filling in for Charlie at the TPUSA events that you're getting a lot of plants in the audience that Charlie would dismiss. We're asking you racist, bigoted, anti-Semitic questions, and you need to respond in kind. not try and intellectualize and rationalize your responses to them. Go ahead.
To adopt his talking points, as we've seen already.
You know, it's funny. I personally do not give a platform to bad faith actors. And I had a whole open about this. And by the way, a really important thing is not to lie and to not bear false testimony. It's fine. I'll answer your question. You know, you said, oh, you know, I want to have a question about Turning Point events. And you obviously lied about your question. Doesn't surprise me because you have deceit. But you know what? Honestly, I'm asked that question all the time. I don't platform trolls. And I don't platform and I don't discuss people or I don't debate with people that are not good faith actors. And
you debate Maoists and people who champion.
They can keep on yelling at how successful we are and our big events and well over 1,000 employees. But a lot of jealousy out there. We build, they complain. We succeed, we win. They blame the Jews. Thank you. Next question.
See? Nothing to do with it. He wants nothing to do with these people. Cut 5, go.
I had a quick question about anti-Semitism online. Another question here they asked about Candace Owens, and I'm a big fan of you. I was a big fan of her, but she's obviously been going down this anti-Semitic bent. And through her, I'm kind of finding out about these other characters online, like Nick, for instance. I'm sure you've heard of him. And these people, they've been active for a long time, and it seems like they've just been ignored, which is working, but now they're kind of surging in popularity. And as someone who I enjoy watching your debates, are they people you'd be willing to engage with and maybe shut them down in a way through a debate or something like that?
Well, I mean, I'll get to debate Candace. But no, look, I'll debate anybody that shows up at our campus events first and foremost. But I do want to take what you say and extrapolate that there is a corner of the internet of people that want to point and blame the Jews for all their problems. Everybody, this is demonic and it's from the pit of hell. And it should not be tolerated. Period. But it goes to a structural problem of an entire generation that has economic resentment. They don't own anything. They're not getting married. They're not having children. They're depressed. They're anxious. They're staring at their screens all day long. And if all of a sudden your extrapolation of all that is, well, it's the Jews' fault, that is sloppy and shallow thinking. And not only that, they say, oh, it's the Jews' fault. Okay, let's kind of play this out. Well, tuberculosis, that used to kill about 1 billion people. It's a group of Jewish scientists that came up with the antibiotic that cured tuberculosis. How about CPR, the MRI machine? There's over 500 million lives that were saved over the last 50 years because of people that were Jewish scientists that were working on things. They'll never say thank you to the Jews, but they'll always say shame on the Jews. Weird how that works. And finally, they always blame the Jews for stuff. Jewish people are an ethnicity. So therefore, definitionally, you have people that are secular, orthodox, religious, that are all over the spectrum. You're trying to blame an entire ethnicity for a singular problem. Hold on, let's take a step back here. Instead of that, what could you possibly do in your own personal life to improve your own state of being? If you are blaming 0.02% of the world's population for all of your problems, that is not going to be good for your soul. It's not good for your psychology. It's not good for your future in any way, shape, or form. And so I would just say this, that any young person that goes into this hyper online brain rot, you are serving yourself over to your own demise. You are serving yourself into a suicide mission that will not make you happier and not make you healthier. Instead, here's what your attitude should be. Your attitude should be like, I can't own stuff. I got it. Can't own a home. Not getting married. I don't know who to date. I said, wow, the challenges are immense. I'm going to now overcome all those challenges and go on an adventure. I'm going to prove everyone wrong. I'm now not going to be a victim. I'm going to be a victor. I'm going to dig deep. This is still a great country. This is a free country. I'm going to use my agency. I'm going to use my ability. And I'm not just going to go point in the corner and be like, I'm overweight because of the Jews. Women don't want to date me because of the Jews. How about this? As Jordan Peterson would say, sit up straight with your shoulders back, follow the rules for life, make yourself interesting, learn something new every single day, and instead of pointing at a small group of people and engaging in this brain rot, become a better person. You'll be a happier and healthier, more joyful and productive person.
Boy, do we miss him. The great Charlie Kirk. So Fuentes did everything he could to destroy the man, his character, his family, his reputation, his organization. Everything. Day in and day out. He said, I'm not debating him. I'm not platforming him. He sends his people into these TPUSA events. You can hear by the question. And it's always about Israel and the Jews. And you have stand-in substitutes who apparently aren't aware of this and don't know how to respond properly. Now, Mr. Reduce, I want to go to the bottom of the list. Here is Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes when Tucker was platforming Fuentes last week. Cut 19, go.
The main challenge to that, a big challenge to that, is organized Jewry in America. I don't think Bill Ackman is capable of that. I don't think Sheldon Adelson is capable of that. I don't think Yoram Hazony is capable of that, for that matter. And many other, on the right and the left. And I see Jewishness as the common denominator.
Mm-hmm. Cut 20, go.
How do you explain Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz, and there are a lot like that, John Bolton. I mean, I've known them all, George W. Bush, like the Karl Rove. I mean, all people I know personally who I've seen like be seized by this brain virus, and they're not Jewish. Most of them are self-described Christians, and then the Christian Zionists who are, well, Christian Zionists. Like, what is that?
So he asks Fuentes about Christian Zionists, Christians who support the state of Israel. Now, is he doing that because he's inquisitive? No. It's all choreographed. He knows exactly what Fuentes is going to say. That's why he invited him. Fuentes is a sock puppet. Carlson is using him to exploit his poison, his Jew hatred, his black hatred, his America hatred. He's platforming somebody who spent years trashing Charlie Kirk. After Charlie Kirk is assassinated, you platform this guy? You don't dismiss him? Everybody's not worth having on your program and questioning. So if you bring somebody in your program and you're questioning them, there's a purpose for it. And it's not clearly knowledge or information or profundity or anything of the sort. He wants this guy to perform like a monkey, like a dancing monkey. And the guy performs, as does Tucker, like a dancing monkey. Go ahead.
I dislike them more than anybody, because like, what? Because it's Christian heresy, and I'm offended by that as a Christian. That's why.
Christian heresy, to believe in the Bible. For all you Christians listening. Nick Fuentes, cut 18, go.
So to say Judeo-Christian, I'm getting really sick of hearing that because it's an insult and it spits on Christ's sacrifice on the cross. And people that say that should be ashamed.
So now we're going to get deep, scholarly, informed religious teachings from Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes, two bigots who despise Christians, who despise Jews, who attack Huckabee and Ted Cruz and others, George W. Bush for their Christianity, because it's not the real Christianity here. No. Say the two great religious scholars? It's not the real, we're just asking questions, and we're giving answers. I got a very strange text this morning from Tucker Carlson, 10:16 a.m. I'll read it to you for verbatim. Good morning, he writes to me. The leadership at Turning Point has asked me to debate you at their event in Scottsdale in December. I'm happy to do it, and I hope you'll agree as well. Beyond the personal insults, which I'll try to keep to a minimum, there are real and important ideological differences between us, and I think the country would benefit from an extended conversation about them. So again, I hope you'll accept. Let me know. Thanks. The guy is desperate. He's taken a hit on his podcast. He's fighting like hell for his career. He's fighting like hell for his reputation. people are awakening to what scum he actually is, and he thinks I'm going to platform him, he thinks I'm going to help him kick up his podcast ratings, what would Charlie say? What would Rush say? What would any rational response? Here it is. I wrote him the following. My family and I want nothing to do with you. What you've become, your vile libels against my faith, millions of Christians, and in my view, what you seek to do to our country. There's nothing to debate. You're a Nazi promoter. You're the modern-day David Duke. I debate people with whom I disagree for a living, who are a lot smarter than you, but for whom I have some respect. I'm also disappointed in TPUSA that continues to platform you. It's not about free speech. You can be heard by millions regardless. Some unsolicited advice. Stop long enough to remember who you used to be and what you used to stand for. So, as expected, knee-jerk. For the record, I'm strongly anti-Nazi. Does he sound that way to you, America? Oh, you're going to hear more. But that's hardly the point. This seems like the perfect opportunity to rebut what you consider evil ideas and to do it to my face like a man. I think you jump at the chance, assuming you believe your positions are defensible. I'm offering the marketplace of ideas you often talk about. Is it possible you can't really defend, for example, what Israel has done to civilians in Gaza? I said, there you go. You're not feared, you're despised. Well, you're a coward, and if you change your mind, I'm here. Thanks. You little bastard, you attacked my stepson? You didn't do that face-to-face, did you? You stabbed him in the back while he's serving President Trump on his second tour, while he's in safe rooms with ballistic missiles passing over his head. You little bastard. Nobody's afraid of you. I'd rather debate a skunk than you. And anybody with a 43 IQ could see that you are a nut. So Tucker Carlson, who's desperate right now, who's looking for other platforms, he's looking for more Jerry Springer moments. In an act of unspeakable betrayal, he brings Fuentes on his program, who has spent years vilifying in the most vile and poisonous way Charlie Kirk, his family, and Turning Point USA. Just weeks after he's assassinated, Tucker Carlson thinks it's a good idea to platform this guy. Says he wants to debate. He didn't debate Fuentes. Gave him a massage. I thought they were exchanging spit there for a minute. Wouldn't surprise me. I don't judge. But nonetheless, this is what we're dealing with. And so now he's going around looking for new platforms, looking for new opportunities. That's what they do. And here he is with Mother Agapia Stephanopoulos. That's right. George Stephanopoulos' sister. A Jew hater. And somehow Carlson finds her, platforms her, because it's very important, that we ask questions. Very important that we ask questions. I only ask questions. Aren't you sick of that too? Cut 10, go.
Gets back to the thing, though, is that people don't always see the whole story. And we're just flooded with this message that
by the way, it's Mother Agapia Stephanopoulos. Go ahead.
It's absurd. Has any member of Hamas or anybody of a Palestinian come and threatened America as an American? No, that's not what they're about.
No, they've only killed Americans. I mean, they killed American hostages, but why interrupt her, right? Right, Tucker? Go ahead.
But that's the tactic that's used, is that we have to plaster them as being these jihadists when they're nothing like that.
Are they, I'm sure you've dealt with Hamas or know people who are, right? Are they religious fanatics? Are they jihadis?
Not the people that I know. Like I said, when I was again in at the school.
What a tough question. Go ahead.
teachers, Muslim men, and there were some elections going on. And it wasn't Hamas then. It was the social party or something. It was definitely a Muslim religious party. I would have voted for those guys because they weren't corrupt. They wanted to serve their people, and that's what it was about. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen anywhere. I'm not totally ingrained in the community, but the vibe there isn't one of wanting everybody to convert to Islam and forcing it upon them at all. And the purpose of Hamas is primarily to resist and to protect their people.
Now, how come Tucker, the scholar, the debater, how come he didn't have their 1988 mission statement? How come he didn't read it there? Why is she there at all? Go ahead.
It's not just Palestine and Israel where the Christian population has shrunk. It seems like throughout the Levant.
Yes. And I think that's part of the whole greater Israel project. So
the fact that Christianity has been reduced throughout the Arab and Muslim world, it's due to the Jews, you see. And of course, Tucker didn't know she would say that, did he? Go ahead.
Such a big thing.
Targeting Christians.
Targeting Christians, yeah. Well, targeting to make control for Israel, for example, in Syria. I went to Syria in 2004, and I went to the convent of St. Thecla, where...
Now, keep in mind, Assad has murdered 600,000, he's dead, of course, Muslims. And keep in mind, the Israeli IDF goes in, they're trying to protect the Jews and the Christians, as they've gone into Lebanon and trying to protect the Christians there. Just listen to this insanity, and of course, this is what they want. This is called propaganda by demagogues. That's all it is. Go ahead.
In Malula, where the nuns were kidnapped by ISIS, right? And the population is over 10% Christian, and you have ancient Christian sites as well as vibrant monastic communities there and vibrant churches and hospitals that were run by the church in Syria and Lebanon, right? And now... what have we done? And so Assad wasn't perfect. Saddam Hussein wasn't perfect.
Okay. But hold on. Assad wasn't perfect. Again, Tucker was very interested when he was debating, sort of, Ted Cruz. How many people live in Iran? Like anybody finds that relevant to anything. But okay. He can't come back and say how many people Assad murdered. Christians and Muslims? Nothing, not a word. Hundreds of thousands of people. Go ahead.
The Middle East is not the United States. And we try to impose ourselves there and get rid of these governments who, for all the repression, also...
And it always comes down to hating the United States. These guys, they camouflage themselves in America first, and patriotism, nationalism, populism. And yet they always support the Islamists, the communists, certainly the fascists, the terrorists. That's whose side they come down on. So now we're trashing the United States. Israel, you see, is responsible for wiping out Christians in Syria, not Assad. And the United States is responsible for all of it because, well, we support Israel. Go ahead.
Allowed minorities to survive there.
Including Christians.
Including Christians, yeah. And Christians, yeah.
How about Sharia law? Is that okay? Sharia law. Now, most Westerners don't think so. With no offense, there's a lot in Sharia law that I think most of us would disagree with. Treatment of women, the use of clothing to cover the face, multiple marriages. I can go on and on and on, but why should I? The expert on Sharia law is Tucker. Cut 12, go.
That should be a value.
Well, you should know, Seth, that the real danger is Sharia law. Sharia law. And you can tell when you go to a place like Abu Dhabi or Riyadh, like, oh man, I hope we don't ever wind up with a society like this with a rape rate of 0, where you leave your keys in your Lamborghini and don't ever worry about it being stolen. And, you know, if people want to get wasted, they do it at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't.
Boy, I hope we don't wind up with that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what's going on in the world, America? Is that what's going on? The Lamborghinis, and women are never raped, you see. Not in the Muslim and Arab countries, never. I wonder what Tommy Robertson, the great patriot in Britain, would have to say about that. I wonder what the women who are in fact raped in Muslim Arab countries and Muslim countries, I wonder what they think about that. Have anybody ever hear honor killings? You see, the women can't even speak up if they've been raped. And I could go on and on. There's statistics out there. But here you have Tucker Carlson praising Sharia law and trashing our country. Now, we have real problems with law and order here, thanks to the Marxist Islamists, thanks to the Democrats, thanks to George Soros, no question about that. But fundamentally, you would compare the laws or the beliefs in the Jewish faith and the Christian faith, but even more than that, the Constitution to Sharia law? You prefer Sharia law? Oh, yes. You know, the Lamborghinis, you can leave your Lamborghini there. That's what I mean. This guy's not real world. He's a head case. He's a moron. But that's not the only place that he promotes is really nirvana in many respects. How about Moscow? He has this in common with Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders loves Moscow, had a honeymoon in Moscow, and Tucker basically had a honeymoon with Putin. Might as well have. And when they were done, Putin looks at him and he says, I thought you were going to ask me a tough question. No. He saves that for other people, not for you. He likes you. Cut 13, go.
What was radicalizing, very shocking and very disturbing for me was the city of Moscow, where I'd never been, the biggest city in Europe, 13 million people. And it is so much nicer than any city in my country. I had no idea. My father spent a lot of time there in the 80s when he worked for the U.S. government and barely had electricity. And now it is so much cleaner and safer and prettier aesthetically. It's architecture, it's food, it's service than any city in the United States that you have to, and this is non-ideological. How did that happen? How did that happen? And at a certain point, I don't think the average person cares as much about abstractions as about the concrete reality of his life. And if you can't use your subway, for example, as many people are afraid to in New York City because it's too dangerous, you have to sort of wonder, like, isn't that the ultimate measure of leadership?
Sure.
And that's true, by the way, it's radicalizing for an American to go to Moscow, I didn't know that, I've learned it this week, to Singapore, to Tokyo, to Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Because these cities, no matter how we're told they're run and on what principles they're run, are wonderful places to live.
Yeah. World's a great place. America sucks. Don't you understand? Now, when you say America sucks, he means Americans suck, because America is not a shiny object. America is what you and I make of it. We have a lot of problems here. So you focus on the problems and the problem makers, the left, the Democrats, the anti-cop forces and so forth. And you don't trash the whole country. But let's talk about Moscow. Moscow is such a fantastic place. It's clean. You can go in the subways and so forth. You open your mouth, you're going to wind up in Siberia. How many people have been assassinated by the government? By Putin's government? How many? He sent 1 million men so far to their death. Mr. Isolationist, except when it comes to Putin, who's an imperialist colonialist trying to take over Ukraine. Then he hates Ukraine, he hates Zelensky, but he loves Putin. So the 1 million people, the 1 million casualties that Putin has caused in what, 3.5 years, really for no reason whatsoever, how are those people working out in Moscow? Sick. Mentally ill. Mentally ill, in my humble opinion. But we're not done. We've got a wide array of genocidal murderers admired by I'm only asking questions. We've got the Iranian president. He couldn't wait to talk to him after the Israelis defeated them and our brave pilots and our bombers took out their nuclear sites, where he was attacking the president of the United States, saying it was going to cause World War III. Me, a Jew, trying to drag us into war, you know? Not the Iranians. No, me, little old me. Go ahead, cut 14, go.
The interview is limited by a couple of factors. One, it was done by remote through a translator. That's always awkward.
See, he's responding to criticism. Why didn't you ask the Iranian president a single difficult question? Why is your head so far up his ass that it's coming out of his right nostril? Why is that? Carlson. Go ahead.
Persian. And there are all kinds of questions that I didn't ask the president of Iran, particularly questions to which I knew I could not get an honest answer, such as, was your nuclear program totally disabled by the bombing campaign by the U.S. government a week and a half ago? There's no chance he's going to answer that question honestly. I didn't bother to ask it. The answer, in fact, from an American perspective, even from the CIA's perspective, is unknowable.
Unknowable. So President said it's knowable and it's there, but he says it's unknowable because Tucker is knowable of all things. Go ahead.
I asked him very simple questions, such as, what is your goal?
We know what you did. We know what you did. The American people aren't stupid. You platformed the guy. You gave him an opportunity to say what he wanted to say. He's a propagandist. You're a propagandist for the enemy. That's what you did. You're being revealed. You're being exposed for what you are. You're Tokyo Rose in blue jeans. So what we're going to do is go into Tucker, who moralizes with the Prime Minister of Qatar, a nation of 330,000, that, of course, protected KSM. When the FBI came to Qatar to get him, they helped him secretly leave the country, having paid for him and his apartment. And shortly thereafter, he masterminded the attack on 9/11. That impressed Tucker. He didn't ask him a single question about that. He praises Nicolas Maduro, the brutal communist murderer who's sending enormous amounts of drugs, including fentanyl, into our country to kill our people and our young people. But he kind of likes Maduro. You see a pattern here, America? This guy is obviously a lunatic. I suppose the appeal for these vile lowlives is basically the appeal of a car accident. You know, when you're driving by and you kind of stretch your neck out, you want to see what happened. It's kind of weird, but... Or maybe you like to look at the door peephole in an insane asylum and see if people are bouncing off the walls, you know. But there's nothing to discuss. There's nothing to debate. This is a mental illness of one kind or another. These are soulless people. And they're giddy and excited about talking to some of the most heinous mass murderers on the face of the earth and praising them. And then lying about what they're doing. Charlie Kirk was right. I'm not going to platform or engage or debate people like this. What's the debate? And even more than that, he obviously believed, as do I, why would I build something and then lend what I have done to them to help save their asses? But even more than that, I'm not going to debate some piece of crap who's trashing my stepson. That's a coward. That's a punk. No real man would sit down and have a discussion with somebody who did that. No damn way. Ask yourselves. Ask yourselves. And then this unspeakable betrayal of Charlie Kirk, bringing Fuentes on weeks after his death. He's so hot for clicks and eyes because his podcast is sinking. And he's figured out the more disgusting, heinous, racist, bigoted, anti-Semitic, anti-American things he can say, maybe he'll pick up a few 100,000 more lookers, listeners. But it won't last. And more than that, he's stuck with this legacy. He's stuck with it. It's tattooed all over his pathetic body. And that's the truth. This guy's imploding. He's destroyed whatever reputation he had. He's lashing out desperately. He's looking for new avenues. He's looking for suckers to engage him. It's the truth. For him, it's all about the shekels. May I say shekels, Mr. Producer? Uh-oh. It's all about the shekels. You know, my friend Brandon Tatum, this guy's big, retired cop out of Tucson. Tommy Robinson, I don't know, but I admire this guy out of Britain. He sees what the Islamists have done. They've gone to Israel to see for themselves. They've interviewed Christians. They've interviewed Arabs and Muslims. There are members of the IDF who are on the courts, who are in the Knesset. They didn't bring some nun on who's praising Hamas. You see, Carlson is not interested in questions. He's not interested in the truth. He's a propagandist. They like to talk about Hitler. They should be talking more about Goebbels. Because in my humble opinion, just my opinion, Fuentes and Carlson have a lot in common with Goebbels. Tell a lie, keep repeating the lie, and so forth and so on. They have a lot in common with Saul Alinsky. Target it, personalize it, attack it. In other words, Marxist, Islamism, fascism. What they do is what has been done in the past, practiced by the worst of the worst. The worst of the worst. And they are that. And we have to overcome it if we're going to defeat the radical leftists who want to destroy our country. While these people are destroying our country, you and I, we have a responsibility to history and a responsibility to the future. We have a responsibility to generations who stand behind us and rely on us and generations yet born. This is our responsibility. This is our generation's responsibility. Here's Tucker Carlson with the Prime Minister of Qatar. Cut 15, go.
They're mad at you because you don't have enough transgenders. They're mad at you because you don't put your parents in some institution. Maybe they're trying to break up your families.
Is that what you're mad at Qatar about, America? Are you mad about the fact that they ensured that KSM could plot 9/11? Or that Qatar has put tens of billions of dollars into our colleges and universities, turning our children against our country? Or that Qatar supported Hamas, $1.8 billion worth, and protects many of the Hamas leadership members? And I can go on and on. Are they mad at Qatar because Qatar is hostile to whatever he just said, LGBTQ or whatever? It doesn't even cross our minds, does it? Does it? I've noticed something else about Carlson and Fuentes. They're like obsessed with talking about sex. They're obsessed with it. And I'll get to that in a little later. Go ahead.
It can be a reason. Honestly, I don't know what is.
No, you don't know.
What is really the purpose behind this? But we see that a lot of things that are happening are attacks on humanity in general. It's
attacks on humanity. Yeah, Qatar should talk, the biggest funder of terrorism in the world. And this guy's got to be looking at Carlson and saying to himself, God, this guy's the gift that keeps giving. We got to learn from him. Get our boys in here from Al Jazeera. This guy's good. Sickening. Then he praises Nicolas Maduro. Oh, he'll get around all the other world's genocidal maniacs. Just a matter of time. The only question is if you're going to keep listening to it and watching it. I'm trying to expose the country to this that doesn't listen or watch it so they understand what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with slime balls. That's what we're dealing with. Now Maduro. Cut 16, go.
So the question is why? Why are we doing this?
Why are we so opposed to Nicolas Maduro? So if you ask someone on the street, random person, why are we against Nicolas Maduro? The answer you're going to get is, who's Nicolas Maduro?
No,
but if you find
actually, stop putting down the American people. They're not stupid. Why don't you go to the place where the people live who are refugees from Venezuela and ask them, what about Nicolas Maduro? Why don't you ask serious questions? Because you're an unserious person. Go ahead.
in South Florida, for example, who knows who Nicolas Maduro is, who can identify where Venezuela is on a map, that person will almost certainly say, well, because he's a communist or a socialist, he's exceedingly left-wing. And that is true. Nicolas Maduro and his government are very left-wing on economics.
No,
not
no,
on social.
they're communists. They are sending killer drugs into our country via Mexico. This is what I mean. So he's stabbing Trump in the back. He's undermining Pete Hegseth. He's undermining Marco Rubio. He's undermining J.D. Vance, for that matter. This administration is committed to trying to prevent what is a narco, essentially communist, who is having to sell drugs and drug paraphernalia through Mexico with the assistance of communist China, pouring it into our streets, pouring it into our homes, killing American citizens and young people. And this a-hole wants to know what the problem is. You think President Trump is just playing games, America? No. So they don't agree with Trump. They don't agree with conservatives. They're not MAGA. They're maggots. Go ahead.
Interesting. In Venezuela, gay marriage is banned. Abortion is banned. Sex changes for
This is what I'm saying. You see the obsession, Mr. Producer? So we have a problem with Venezuela, a problem with Qatar, and other problems over sex or sex changing or something like that. Is that why Donald Trump is hitting these ships? Because of sex changes? Exposes thousands of young people, college students, to this guy. Especially given his unspeakable betrayal of Charlie Kirk by putting one of the most loathsome quasi-human beings, Fuentes, all 3'8" of them, on his program. I don't know. Just call me loyal and rational. Never happened. I wouldn't allow it. That's just me. That's just me. Go ahead.
And it's one of the very few countries in the entire hemisphere.
Shut up, you idiot. You're annoying me. Give me a headache. Then he brings this guy, Darryl Cooper, on. Victor Davis Hanson had some words for him in the Free Press. You know, he's one of the leading historians. Victor says, excuse me, nobody views him as a historian, but Tucker does. And in part, here's why. Cut 17, go.
I thought Churchill was the chief villain of the Second World War. Now, he didn't kill the most people. He didn't commit the most atrocities. But I believe, and I think when you really get into it and tell the story right and don't leave anything out, you see that he was primarily responsible for that war becoming what it did, becoming something other than an invasion of Poland. You know, Germany, look, they put themselves into a position, and Adolf Hitler is chiefly responsible for this, but his whole regime is responsible for it, that when they went into the East in 1941, they launched a war where they were completely unprepared to deal with the millions and millions of prisoners of war, of local political prisoners and so forth that they were going to have to handle. They went in with no plan for that. And they just threw these people into camps, and millions of people ended up dead there.
Yeah, folks, the documentary evidence is overwhelming. This was planned. The entire thing was planned. The camps were planned to slaughter as many people as possible. They didn't go into the war unprepared with the countries that surrounded Germany. This guy is an absolute kook. But Carlson platforms him. Churchill's the villain. The Third Reich is misunderstood. None of you heard of Darryl Cooper before. But here's the last one. Recently, I told you he's obsessed with sex, and not necessarily the good kind of sex. I think somebody once told me if you're obsessed with talking about sex, you don't get much. Now, we know that's true with little Adolf, prepubescent little Adolf. But take a listen to this. Go.
His sexuality is his own thing, but if it's based on kind of his psychosexual urge for violence, that's a problem.
Let's stop lying. Okay, I'm not being mean. This is a very recognizable phenomenon that has reoccurred throughout history, and it is tied up in your personal life. And I'm not talking about his sexuality. I mean, the way that you live reflects your values, and it affects your opinions on everything. And so if you have children and grandchildren, you have by definition a vested interest in stability and peace. You're instinctively opposed to violence. You lie awake as the head of household thinking, if there's a home invasion, what do I do? Yeah. Like, that's how your brain works.
Absolutely.
I believe Stalin had children and grandchildren. How did his brain work, you stupid little bastard? That was 2 hours of the most important, greatest radio in the history of radio. I'm going to send it to Russia's Hall of Fame to be placed on the shelf with that. We're packaging this together. By the end of the program, we will have it all for you. We will put it on the internet. We will make sure the whole world has it available. Mostly you, Mr. and Mrs. America, so you can share it with people so they can understand what's taking place. You can share it with politicians. You can share it with presidents and CEOs of colleges and universities, as well as think tanks, all of which claim to be conservative. Put the word out there. That's what you need to do.